had my first closing.
Yay, congratulations. That a girl. Way to go. Well, you guys are tearing it up. I see that you had your first closing, but you have other things in the hopper going on, right?
I do. I have a couple of listings already and one coming up.
That's great. Congratulations. Way to go. You're a
Thank you.
natural.
I learned from the best.
Well, I don't know about that. You've learned from a lot of people, and
Yes.
you're with a great group. So that's fantastic. That's great.
Yep.
Good
Uh-oh.
stuff. What else? Anybody else? Any ahas that you've had in any of the classes?
Lots of
Okay.
them.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say lots of them, but I don't want to keep you here all day.
Oh, just one. I'm just looking for one.
I think
What was the most impactful? What had the most meaning for you?
Okay, so my whole big why is freedom. Freedom
Okay.
from, financial freedom, stress, freedom from worry,
Yeah.
and freedom from fear,
Yeah.
paralyzing fear, right? But these, I thought that I would just be able to get by in this first year. Walking away from my corporate salary was really scary, but I
Yep.
just thought, okay, that's okay. I'm going to have faith. And in the first year, I just need to make enough to get by.
Mm.
Well, in the classes that I've taken, the business planning clinics and a class I took last week with Jake, I realized that with very minimal effort, not working as hard as I was in corporate America, I could not only replace that salary, but I can double it.
Yes.
And it's right there in my database. And literally the system, I'm a numbers person, kind of
Yeah.
like you. So when you showed me when I was shown the laws of averages that relate to it and how that works, then it clicked and it made
Uh-huh.
sense to me that really I don't have to be spending money on all these other marketing issues or efforts, which I'm a marketing person. So I thought that's what I would do.
Hmm.
No, it's all about my database and working it every single day. And those were big ahas.
No,
So,
that's powerful. That's awesome.
and
A
I
lot of
will keep
you
having more.
said a lot of powerful things right in there. First of all, understanding that your opportunity as an entrepreneur in the real estate business, you're the CEO of your own company. That is your job, right?
Mm,
And as the CEO and controller of your own destiny, you can make decisions that you might not be able to make or probably can't make in working for someone else. So that's
very
a real cool power to understand. So your destiny is in your hands. The sky is the limit. There are no limits but what's in your mind, right?
exactly.
The other thing you talked about is there's gold in your database. People that know you and love you and like you will do business with you, no question. So your marketing efforts and any money that you spend in the beginning should be targeted toward them.
Hmm.
And in the beginning, a lot of people don't have money; they have time, right? So if you don't have money, you put time in, and you put time into working your database and people that know you, and you also put time in adding people to your database, and then you sort and sift and contact that database automatically and by face to face or phone or email. You have a system to contact them, and uh, you locate who might be interested in doing business now or in the near future, and who they know that might be interested in doing business now or in the near future. And it's great that you got that clarity from the business planning clinic. Which business planning clinic did you take? Who did you take it from? Pat?
Pat
Great. Yeah.
Mancuso. Is that how you say his
Yeah,
last
yeah, that's powerful. James Shaw's doing one, I think, coming up soon.
name? I
And
might
it'll
do
be,
it again
yeah,
because
do it because the more you do it, the more your knowledge is layered on, and you get little different tidbits from different instructors.
right.
So, and that's another thing that KW has for all you guys. So avail yourself of those opportunities. And thank you. December 1st. Thanks, Tamara. James Shaw is December 1st. So, and don't be afraid to implement what you're learning right away. It can have immediate impact. Immediate. So I'm proud of you. I had a girl. Way to go. What else? Tell me something good. Ahas or tell me something good. What'd you learn?
well, I think one good one that I heard, I think it was from James.
was, like if you're not hitting your goals in the current year, don't increase them.
Okay. What's the purpose of goals?
Well, in this case, that they are achievable,
Mhm.
right?
But don't you want to have big goals?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with what James said. Is what I'm trying to do
You
is
want
what.
to know where you're going.
Yeah, you want to have clarity in the direction that you want to go, but the purpose of goals is so that you become the person that's worthy of them.
However, if we don't have a plan to reach them through a 135 and a 411, it doesn't make much sense to just have goals, right? We have to have a plan and be purposeful to get there.
Right, right. So what I'm getting at is what's on the MREA book on the cover?
Millionaire.
The Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
Mm-hmm.
Millionaire.
Think big,
Yeah.
act bold, right?
Yep.
And think big, as Gary said, become a millionaire real estate agent, and it's not about the money. And that's the other thing. So you want to set a big vision for yourself so you can aspire to. And it's not about hitting the goals; it's about developing the habits that allow you to build a consistency that you want to hit the targets that you're hitting on a monthly basis. So it's about setting a goal that's high enough that's going to inspire you to grow. And even though you might not know how now, it's about setting a big goal and then invent the how on the journey. So you want to, and those big goals are like targets that you're shooting for. It may not be your annual goal. It may be a 5-year goal, right? So you don't want to think 1 year at a time. You want to think, where do I want to be someday? Right? And then work it back from there. Begin with the end in mind. Work it back from there till you get to the point, well, where do I need to be at the end of this year to be on track to hit my 3-year goals and my someday goals? Does that make sense? So that do you want to set a plan in place for hitting the target this year? Or do you want to start setting plans in place for hitting the target that you want to hit 5 years from now? That makes sense? But yeah, James is right.
Excuse me, Gary. Then I'm kind of new to the office. Who is it that you would really speak to about your goals, what you want to do for yourself as a realtor? I mean, I have a goal, and my goal is to do international real estate.
Right, right.
So who would direct me as far as getting me pointed in the right direction
Which
to
market center are you in?
Tampa
I
properties?
would talk to Hudson, the team leader,
Okay.
and Hudson will direct you on what the best course and the best direction to move forward in that area. Are you a brand new agent?
To Florida, yes.
Okay. So are you in the PC program over there with Mike and Mike?
Yes.
Good. They can help you too. But Hudson and Mike can help you over there and direct you in the area you want to move towards. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good,
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, my pleasure. What else? Any other ahas or questions?
Hey, Gary. And I think I was on the same call with James Shaw that the other gentleman was on. And something else he said is that the goal we have for 2021, we should be focusing on getting 15% of that by January 1st to be on track to reach it by the end of 2021 as well.
That's
which
true.
which is kind of an aha, especially if you're not close to getting that 15%.
Well, yeah. Well, a lot of times we forget that the business that we do now is going to be realized in 60 to 90 days, right?
Right.
So you're really starting You're starting your next year activity wise, really in October.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Right.
That's why business planning clinics are coming out in October, so that you can
Mhm.
start whatever your production goals are. You want to start getting a feel for the habit. Is there going to be any change in habits in my daily habits that I'm going to need to make in order to hit my goals, monthly and yearly goals in 2021, right?
Right.
So yes. So the activities that take place right now will launch January off. And the thing is that,
Correct.
a lot of times when you set goals on a monthly basis and you have the same number of transactions, same number of closings, you want a certain amount of closings every month, certain number of listings every month, but the market doesn't work linearly. Okay.
Right.
So the sooner you get started, the better off you're going to be. Because the most discouraging thing a lot of times for some people is to start off behind.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, what do I need to do when I'm way behind in the first quarter? Well, the second quarter is usually there's more transactions in the first quarter.
Right.
January and February are kind of that way. It doesn't justify that, but right now, if you stay active and engaged in November and December,
Mhm.
not only will you have great Novembers and Decembers, but you'll have a great January and get off the ground running. So that he's definitely right, very accurate right there. It's
Right.
important to continue to work through the holidays, at the same time enjoying your family. But
Right.
most people in real estate, they've stopped already.
Mhm.
Halloween hit, they're done. And that's people that want to work. That's their opportunity right now to capture market share.
Yep. Yep.
Good stuff. What else? Any other ahas? Okay, let's get to the materials. Do you treat people with dignity and respect? You meet the same people on the way up as you meet on the way down. The origin of this favorite quote of Coach Wooden's is attributed to playwright Wilson Misner, who in 1932 gave the following advice to a young up-and-coming motion picture star. Be kind to everyone on the way up, you'll meet the same people on the way down. For Coach Wooden, this was sound advice for his players at UCLA to keep things in proper perspective and not get big-headed. This statement reflected how Coach lived his life too, not to get some desired result, but rather just doing what he enjoyed, treating all people with dignity and respect. This story from Pat Williams' book, How to Be Like Coach Wooden, Life Lessons from Basketball's Greatest Leader, is a good example of this approach to life. Steve Jameson, a writer who has often worked with Coach, told me about a book signing at a Barnes and Nobles in Huntington Beach, California. People started lining up at 7 a.m. for a 2 p.m. signing. The publisher had hired a driving service to escort us that day. And after the signing, we were driven to Coach's granddaughter's house for dinner. As we were getting out of the car, Coach turned to the driver, a man named Jason, and asked, "You'll join us for dinner, won't you?" The man was startled, but wound up sitting next to Coach at the table with a dumbfounded look on his face as if to ask, is this really happening? This is how Coach Wooden thinks. Everyone should be treated properly with respect and dignity. You don't leave a driver out in the car while everyone else is inside eating. That lesson really hit me. If the greatest coach of the 20th century acts this way with people at all levels, I can too. For Coach, treating all people with dignity and respect was common courtesy, not a special event. Any thoughts? This is a difference maker.
Mhm.
It's a difference maker in our world. It's another way, just like we talked about setting yourself apart from other people. It's a breath of fresh air when you get treated with dignity and respect nowadays in a lot of situations. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yep.
What's going on? You want to be a provider of dignity and respect. You want to be a provider of hope and of love and encouragement. Those are feelings that a lot of people aren't experiencing right now. When you do exude those type of things, you're different. You set yourself apart. People want to hang out with you. People want to do business with you. People trust you, right? So it's important. to express yourself in that way. Any other thoughts about this? Any other meaning that this might have had to anybody?
Gary, I can piggyback on that. I'm from the Tampa Properties Office. About, I'd say, probably 16, 17 years ago now, I did an open house, and I was fairly new at that time.
Mhm.
And I had a couple come in, and they, of course, they looked like they were kids and they were just out looking.
Mhm.
They were kids. They were 19 and 20 years old. But what I didn't know at the time is they were actually looking for a home.
Mhm.
And because I treated them as if they were actually looking for a home, that year I put 4 other family members into new homes
That-
because the parents were financing all of it, but they had sent the kids out to go look on on their own. And it really ended in a good relationship with 2 different families, the groom and the and the bride's family, and several transactions.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Perfect example. Don't make judgments by people by how they look or their age. I don't know how many times how vulnerable you are to making mistakes like that. A lot of times people that don't look like they have money do, you know, and it's uncanny, but it's just important to treat people with dignity and respect, and appreciation. What's a breath of fresh air for you in today's world? Do you think it might be a breath of fresh air for other people? And can you provide some of that? Just the care calls that we talked about earlier, that's a breath of fresh air. Okay. And that's something that makes you feel good while you're doing it, right? Checking in on people. So why don't we do more of it? Okay. The other thing is humility. Somebody wrote in the chat is exactly right. Things are going good. When things are going good, real estate can be very cyclical. So when things are going really good, we feel really good about ourselves. When things are not going really good, we get maybe too low. We get too high. Highs are too high and the lows are too low. We got to kind of keep it even keel, right? Even keel, and not go through the emotional roller coasters. But humility is important because don't get to the point where you start thinking that you know it all. You will be humbled. I promise you. I've lived it. I've lived it, and it's definitely a learning opportunity. So be grateful. Be grateful that you have all the opportunities that you have by the grace of God. Okay, you might have earned it, and you might have worked hard to get it, and that's awesome. You deserve credit, but give gratitude too, because no one succeeds alone, ever. Does that make sense? Okay. Next article. You interested in finding out the 6 qualities required to bring out the success within yourself? Well, that's good. I'm glad, because even if you weren't, you're going to get it. You have success within. It's up to you to bring it out. This favorite idea of Coach Wooden's always reminds me of my favorite quotes. God don't make no junk. Amen. Coach Wooden, in his book, Coach Wooden's Leadership Plan for Success, commented on fundamental qualities that are required to bring out the success within ourselves. Number 1, don't measure yourself by what you've accomplished, but measure yourself by what you should or could have accomplished with your abilities. Measure your success on the basis of how close you got to realizing your full potential. That's an eye opener, isn't it? I always say you want to have attaboy boards, because most people are really tough on themselves. So you do want to have uplifting opportunities where you celebrate your successes. I'm not saying don't celebrate your successes, but measure yourself by your potential. Be inspired. Celebrate what you've accomplished. That's awesome. But understand, is that the best that I could do? 2, you can't make up for poor effort today by working harder tomorrow. If you can work twice as hard tomorrow, it means you've been holding something back, not giving 100% today. Number 3, if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing anything. The doer makes mistakes. However, be sure your mistakes are not the result of poor preparation or sloppy execution. Number 4, you're not a failure until you start blaming others for your mistakes. Wow. Time spent complaining is time wasted. The moment you seek to set responsibility on the doorstep of another, you have deluded yourself. Self-delusion is self-destruction. That's awakening, isn't it? 5, don't be vulnerable to praise or criticism from outsiders. Your strength of consistency depends on how you let praise and criticism affect you. Some of it will be deserved and some of it will be undeserved. Either way, don't get caught up in the opinions of others. When you're honest in your self-analysis, your opinion should count the most. Number 6, things turn out best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. The ancient proverb says, crisis presents opportunity. It's the opportunity to dig deeper and rise higher, to get stronger and be smarter, to find a better way, a different path. Adversity offers the opportunity, but you must recognize it. It takes a lot of hard work and persistence to bring out the success within ourselves. But as Coach liked to say, goals achieved with little effort are seldom worthwhile or long lasting. Any ahas? Any thoughts? How does this relate to real estate? Quiet group today.
Well, Gary, Jan here.
Hi, Jan.
Number 2 speaks to me as a procrastinator. I always think, oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow's to-do list gets real long.
Right.
And the way this number 2 is structured, it reminds me that that means I didn't do something today. And I didn't put forth my best effort in the moment. In the moment, stay in the moment.
Yeah, and it's a choice, right? I mean, this isn't about perfection. This is about excellence, right? It's about, and with to-do lists, sometimes they're so long you can't get everything done.
Yeah.
I think it's about priorities, and I think you want to have at least you want to be aware of the 3 most important things you have to get done each day.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you get those 3 things done, you win the day. All right. Now you also want to know what the most important thing is, because Gary Keller teaches us, you want to treat the most important thing to get done like it is the most important thing to get done, and everything else like a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes intention and focus to not allow yourself to be distracted, to make sure that the most important things gets done. We're in a very reactive business. But if you keep getting reactive, you're not going to be as productive as you can be. If you live in a mode of reaction, you will not be as productive as you can be. You will not hit your full potential. You got to be intentional about the time and know what the time is you have to put in to get the most important things done, right? And many of us are real good at putting appointments in our calendar, people appointments. We're real good at putting closings in our calendar. That's a fun one, right? Or listing appointments or buyer consultations. But a lot of times we're not good at putting activity appointments in our calendar and treating it like it's $1 million listing appointment. What do I mean? Lead generation, adding people to the database, adding people to the pipeline, which is what the activities that are going to help you accomplish those goals, right? Also, something that we're not good at putting in the calendar, is time for us. Time for us to make sure that we have a great day every day. Time for us to with a family date nights with our spouse or significant other, family nights with your family. Okay, so that you don't feel like you're on an endless treadmill with your real estate practice, so that you feel like you have control over your opportunity, right? So that's what a calendar can do. If it's not in the calendar, it doesn't get done, right? And that's why preparation. We learned this from John Maxwell. He calls it bookends: preparation and reflection. You want to have time at the beginning of the day or the day before for preparation for the next day. Then at the end of it, you want to have reflection, because it's after reflection that you get the most learning. If you don't evaluated practice brings perfection, not practice. Okay? So you want to have time to prepare and you want to have time to reflect. Good stuff. Thanks, Jan. Anybody else? Any meaning for any of these items? Okay, let's move forward. Thanks, Tamara. Ready for some good news? All right, we got a lot of good news today. Sellers that are on the fence, selling your house is the right move right now. Why? Demand is up. 62% more buyers out there. Home showings are up. 62% home showings are up. And the number of homes for sale is down by 38%. High demand means sellers are poised to win big. Prices have gone up 15% year over year. That's an average increase of $40,300. So if you haven't called your database in a while, you might want to call them and ask them if they want to have an equity update. And just do evaluations of their homes to find out how much their home went up in value. And is now the time to move up or move down? If they're moving up, is the house they're going to buy more expensive now than it was last year? I can get it. I got one nod, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
good. That makes sense, right? Okay. So also, homes are selling faster. In September, the average house was on the market 21 days. So sellers are in the driver's seat, more bidding wars. You pick the best offer, negotiate the terms that work for you. You think this infographic can be something that you could send to your listing leads, to your database, just to let them know what's going on in the market? Yeah, I would think so. It's a powerful opportunity to have conversations with people that own real estate because their equity is increasing, no question about it. And that might spur them on to think about getting their house on the market and sold, or to become investors and buy real estate and build their wealth through real estate. Now is a great time for investors to buy real estate. Even if prices are higher than they were last year, they're less expensive because interest rates are lower. How are they less expensive? Cost-wise, on a monthly basis. So most properties will cash flow. In other words, they'll make money on the rent that they would charge versus the rent would be higher that they would get than the mortgage that they're paying. And they're building equity and somebody else is paying their mortgage for them. It's a wonderful time to invest in real estate. That's why so many investors are out there. Okay, good. Any ahas? Okay, next article. Should I renovate my house before I sell it? They say probably not. I agree. You know, that's why it's so important to know what market you're in. In a seller's market, buyers just want houses. Granted, if they show better and they're in good condition, they'll probably sell faster and for more money because there'll be less objections. But there's such a demand for inventory right now that dumps will sell. May take a little longer, but the thing is some remodeling things. What they say is you're not necessarily going to recoup the cost of making doing major remodels, adding decks, even putting a new roof on, although if it's at the end of its life, it really should be replaced, but you're still not going to get all your money back for it. But the main thing is absolutely necessary things could be done, but don't necessarily have to be done when there's such a high demand. Now, when the market becomes more of a buyer's market and the sellers have more competition, then it's going to be real important, very important, to compete, that they take care of things before they put it on the market. Does that make sense? Logical, right? Okay, that's all that article says. Next page. Thanks, Tamara. You're the best. 4 reasons why the election won't dampen the housing market. Okay, number 1 is demand is strong among millennials, which is the largest group that's out there. Millennials, long viewed as perennial home renters who are reluctant or unable to buy, are now emerging as a driving force in the U.S. housing market's recent recovery. So that's one reason. The second reason is rates are historically low. Interest rates are low. That's driving demand. That's driving very, very strong demand because people want to take advantage of that opportunity right now. And there it is. One of the strong, yeah, you got it. One of the main drivers of the strong housing recovery is the low mortgage rates. From the third quarter of 2020 through the end of 2021, Freddie Mac is forecasting mortgage rates to remain unchanged at 3%. So what do you think that'll mean for next year?
It's going to stay strong.
Good news. It's still going to be a very good time to buy and sell. 3, prices continue to appreciate. 4, history says so. Okay. Ali Wolf, history suggests that the slowdown is largely concentrated in the month of November. In fact, the year after a presidential election is the best of the 4-year cycle. This suggests that demand for new housing is not lost because of the election uncertainty. Rather, it gets pushed out of the following year to the following year as long as the economy stays on track. So bottom line, there's no doubt that this is one of the most contentious presidential elections in our nation's history. The outcome will have a major impact in many sectors of the economy. However, an economist at Zillow explained, while the path of the overall economy is likely to be most directly dictated by the coronavirus related and political developments in the coming months, recent trends suggest that the housing market was basically withstood every pandemic-related challenge to this point, will continue its strong momentum in the months ahead. Okay, so optimism, stay positive. Next article. Rent versus buy. This is a great article to send to people that are on the fence or people that are renting right now. What's the main differences between renting and owning?
You build equity.
Right, you build an equity, right? One of the points that they're making here is rents continue to go up, right?
Right.
Do mortgage payments continue to go up?
No. Well, you have an adjustable rate mortgage.
Yeah, right. But most mortgages don't, right? Unless taxes increase, but then that's not substantial. Rent, you're at the mercy of the landlord. So rent continues to go up. If you don't believe me, look at the graph. That's rents from 1988 through 2020. Wow. Also, what that means is it's a great time to be a landlord, right? But for people that are renting, the best help you can give them is to get them into home ownership. The next page. Thank you. The next best benefit of owning is you have freedom to customize. You have privacy because the landlord won't bug you for access. If you're renting, you have maybe more flexibility for relocation in normal times, But with interest rates so low and houses flying off the market, that may not be much of a benefit to renting right now because things are just popping, right? I mean, you just tell somebody you're listing a house and it's sold, right? And building equity is big. Your net worth, they've shown historically and through, this blog that we share on this mastermind, that the net worth of homeowners is hundreds of thousands more than the net worth of renters. All right. And one other reason is because of the tax advantages. You can deduct property taxes and mortgage insurance right now. I mean, mortgage interest, property taxes and mortgage interest, and the renter doesn't have any of those tax benefits. So it's up to you to decide if you prefer to rent or buy. It's different for every person. If you'd like to learn more about the pros and cons of each, as well as resources to help you along the way, let's connect to discuss your options. KCM blog is a great blog because it sells the benefit of you, and it leads them back to you. And it tries to explain the benefits to buyers and sellers into acting now. What are the benefits of acting now? And so that's powerful. But this is something that you might want to send to your people that you know that are renting. Next article. Real estate's the driving force of the economy. You go along with that? You buy into that? There's no doubt about it. Okay? According to the National Association of Realtors, the real estate industry provided $3.7 billion of economic impact to the country last year. To break it down, in 2019, the average newly constructed home contributed just over $88,000 per build to the local economies. You realize that? That little $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 house that you just sold had that much impact on the economy. Okay. In Florida, if you look at the graph, 77,000 every real estate sale. So the economy was coming back after COVID. The U.S. gross domestic product increased at an annual rate of 33.1% in the third quarter after decreasing by 31.4% in the second quarter because things were shut down, plain and simple. There's no doubt the growing economy is being fueled in part by the soaring housing market. Experts forecast this housing growth to carry into 2021, continuing to make a big impact on the economy next year as well. That's good news, right? Thanks, Tammy. I see you nodding. All right. Next article. Is it safe to sell my house right now? Well, it's interesting. 3 reasons homeowners who are thinking of selling sometime in the next 3 years are not putting their houses on the market right now. 34%, life's too uncertain right now. 31%, financial uncertainty. 25%, COVID-19 health concerns. Okay. If you identify with these, you're not alone. Whether it's the future of your employment situation or simply being uncomfortable having guests in your home for showings, life feels a lot different than it did this time last year. The good news is real estate professionals have spent the majority of 2020 figuring out how to sell homes safely, and it's paying off for those who are choosing to move this year. We're doing 2 things really well. We're implementing technology in the process, using virtual tours and what they have there, highlight high quality listing photos, agent-led video chats. And we're also, what else we're doing, Tamara? Agents are facilitating safe and effective in-person showings. Okay. So a lot of people are feeling this way, and you want to be their trusted advisor. So make sure you're letting them know what we're doing to make it as safe as it can possibly be. Does that make sense? And I'm sure most of you are doing that already. Homeowners who feel life is uncertain right now may think they can still get a strong price if they delay selling until they have more clarity. The catch is that waiting to sell may raise the cost of a trade-up. We talked about that a little bit before. This fall's record low mortgage rates, which make a trade up more affordable on a monthly basis, are not guaranteed to last. So these interest rates, even though they predict they're going to be going through next year, we don't know that that's going to happen that way. If interest rates go up 1 point, it affects their buying power by 10%. They can afford only 10% less of the mortgage that they could have afforded right now. Secondly, the house that they're moving up to is getting more expensive if values are still rising. So they're selling a $300,000 house to move up to a $700,000 house, right? That $300,000 house goes up 15%. It's worth $345,000, right? That $700,000 house goes up 15%. What's that worth? $805,000. So they lost 60 grand in the deal by waiting. Does that make sense? That's the way we got to help people understand. When we're on a listing appointment with somebody that's moving up or buying another house or even moving out of the area, don't get them so locked in and entrenched in what they're selling that they forget that they make decisions to sabotage themselves. Let them realize that what the consequence of selling is going to be. The benefit is being able to move on with the rest of their life, unlocking their equity, being able to buy now in this market with low interest rates and values that are there right now. Does that make sense? Okay.
Harry, even if they're downsizing, that makes sense because they're going to end up paying more for something smaller, probably almost as much as what they currently have. That they, you know what I mean? Like they're going to end up paying what they paid for what they're in years ago.
Right. You know,
something
especially if
smaller.
it's a retiree with limited income, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, you definitely want to do the math. Math is a great ally into helping people understand their situation and what the possibilities are. And sometimes numbers make more sense to some people than just having a conversation about it. They'll understand it more if you actually do the numbers and write them down and show them. Does that make sense? Okay, good stuff. Anybody else? Any aha so far today? Okay, next article.
I would say a lot of good news so far, Gary.
I agree, Tamara. That's awesome news. Chances for another foreclosure crisis. What does it say? About 0%. Don't worry about things you can't control. All right. You can read this article. I'm not going to read it to you, but you know, there's more equity right now. People have more equity right now than they ever have, and there's also forbearance programs that are more in consideration of where people are at right now. One of the questions they ask in the middle, if you scroll down a little bit further, is what happens when the forbearance programs expire. Some analysts are concerned many homeowners will not be able to make up the back payments once their forbearance plans expire. They're concerned the situation will lead to an onslaught of foreclosures. The banks and the government learned from the challenges the country experienced during the housing crash. They don't want a surge of foreclosures again. For that reason, they've put in place alternative ways homeowners can pay back the money owed over an extended period of time. Another major difference is that unlike 2006 to 2008, today's homeowners are sitting on a record amount of equity. That equity will enable them to sell their houses and walk away with cash instead of going through foreclosure. And then the CEO of Zelman and Associates is the one that said the likelihood of us having a foreclosure crisis again is about 0%. Good news. And the final article, I believe, nope, there's one more after that, which you guys can read in your leisure. Why working from home may spark your next move. This is a pretty good article because it talks about how far away are you considering moving. Look at the graph at the next page. If people can work from their home, being close to work is not as an important consideration, right? So look at this. 24.2% want to be close to work. 21% want to be within a 2-hour drive. 13.2% between a 2 to 4 hour drive, and over 41.5% more than a 4-hour drive is okay. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? So people don't necessarily need to be right next to work in order to be interested in purchasing, which is kind of interesting. Especially when you're talking about metropolitan areas, And on the next article, homes for sale are rapidly disappearing. You already know this, right? We're experiencing it, we're living it. So you can read that article in detail. We're at a 2.5 month supply of inventory nationally right now, which is one of the lowest in history. So what does that mean if you're a buyer? Here we go. Be patient during your home search. It may take time to find the home you love. Once you do, be ready to move forward quickly. Get pre-approved for a mortgage, which we talk about. Be prepared to make a competitive offer from the start, and understand how the shortage in inventory has led to more bidding wars. Calculate just how far you're willing to go to secure a home if you truly love it. Guys, I'm a firm believer in using your buyers to find sellers. I've been preaching this message for 3 years. Use your buyers to find sellers. What do I mean by that? The best way you can service your buyer right now is to prevent them from getting into a bidding war environment. What do most agents do? They put their buyers' criteria in the MLS for an automated update. And then when a house hits that criteria, hits the market, they run their buyers out there in a frenzy, and maybe with 10 other buyers that they're going to be competing against. And is that a benefit to the buyer or the seller? It's a benefit to the seller. It drives the seller's price up through the roof. Okay. So what can you do for a buyer to minimize that up from happening? Well, you can try to find a house that isn't listed yet. And how do you try to find a house that's not listed yet? You use the same criteria for active listings as you for what they're looking for. You search withdrawn and expireds, and you call them to see if they're still interested in selling their house. You might get a lead, that a seller that wants to sell, that you won't have to go through the hassle of competition. And you also make, if you can't get a house for the buyer that way, you might get listing opportunities from just going through the exercise of doing it. The other thing you can do is make sure you're aware of all the new construction. New construction is either available or not. If there's inventory homes out there, or even homes to build, new construction kicks resales butt most of the time, unless a buyer has a need to get into something now and they don't want to wait. So present that as an option, even though they say they want to be in a specific area and there might not be any new home builds in that area. Find out from Marie Polo and the group over in Tampa what new construction is available in the price range that your buyer's in, and see if that might work. Because if they go over there by themselves and you don't have a buyer broker agreement and they like it, then you lost a buyer. Okay. What are other things that you can do to try to find a property? You can talk to agents in the office and see if they have anything that's about to come on the market in the criteria that they're looking for, right? You can preview FSBOs and have a FSBO inventory log and accumulate a FSBO inventory log from all the previews that you've gone through. And while you're previewing, you might get some listings. So taking those steps outside of the box are going to create opportunities, as long as you do them consistently. And how can you sell that to a buyer? If you're selling to a buyer that you're doing this, these 5 or 6 or 7 extra things, whatever the number is, to try to minimize the chance that they're going to have to get in a competing bidding war, do you think they're not going to sign an agreement with you? Yeah, I think they will. Now, for sellers, they're in the driver's seat. It's fun to be a seller right now. It's funny that when it's the most fun to be a seller, not many people are putting their houses on the market. It's kind of funny that way. When there's a shortage of an item, at the same time there's a strong demand for it, the seller's in a good position to negotiate. Whether it's the price, the moving date, repairs, they're in a driver's seat. They can ask for more from a potential buyer, especially if you have multiple interested buyers. Don't be unreasonable, but understand you probably have the upper hand. Okay. Right now, you're probably hearing from many people, I don't want to put my house on the market through the holidays. They might want to wait till after the first of the year. So are you ready to and equipped to handle that potential objection? You want to be respectful, but you also want to understand, help them understand what the benefits of putting their house on the market right now will be. Would they rather have their house under contract or possibly closed? Or would they rather be, have their house going on the market when other people are thinking of putting their house on the market? Because most people want to wait until after the holidays in order to put their house on the market. The other thing I try to let them understand is, do you think buyers that are looking right now are serious? Buyers that are looking during the holidays are very serious. And all the other point that you might want to make is that houses show pretty nice during the holidays. They're probably going to show a lot nicer during the holidays than they are after the holidays. Okay, next article. Making a home for the brave possible. Veterans have opportunities. They have options for no down payment, fewer closing costs, better terms, better interest rates. So you guys probably already know all this, but if you don't, Brian P. Forrester handles these very well. And veterans have a unique opportunity. They've earned the opportunity. They've provided service for our country. And they have a great opportunity to get into a house with virtually nothing down. If you don't know about those things, find out about them and learn about them, because it can be a difference maker. I remember one gentleman called our office one time and said he wanted to he was looking for a rental. So I just asked him a question. Well, if you could buy, would you buy? And he said, sure, I would, but I don't think, I don't have the money to buy. So what's my next question? Are you a veteran? He said, yeah, I happen to be a veteran. Great. Well, you don't need any money to buy. Really? He didn't know. I saw him 10 years later, and he remembered that I helped him find his house, and he was still grateful. It was amazing. Okay, let's get to some data. You ready for some data? Here we go. Foreclosures, or REO, which means real estate owned by banks. Foreclosures in Pinellas, only 16 active. I went up from 12, 19 sold. They sold at 97% of list price. The absorption rate was 119%, more sold than were active. That means there was less than a 1 month supply of inventory, a 0.8 month supply of inventory, which is an extensively strong seller's market. A seller's market is a 0 to 5 month supply, according to NAR, National Association of Realtors. A 5 to 7 month supply is a normal or balanced market, and a 7 month or greater supply of inventory is a buyer's market. Just makes sense. The more supply, the more the buyer has control and options. The less supply, the more the seller has control and options. So right now we're in the throes of a very strong seller's market, probably one of the strongest seller's market in history. That's why it's a great opportunity to sell. Where does the great opportunity to buy come in if it's such a great opportunity for sellers? The great opportunity to buy is because interest rates are so low that even though prices are going up, it's less expensive this year to buy than last year. Okay, next page. Short sales, virtually non-existent. 7 listings active right now, 7 sold in October. They took 95 days to get from contract to closing. We've been tracking this for several years because the real downside of a buyer putting a contract on a short sale is the length of time they have to wait for an answer from the bank as far as what the price the bank will accept, because the seller might accept a price just to present something to the bank. The bank gets to decide what the value that they're willing to accept is, because the mortgage is worth more than the house is. So the downside to a buyer is the time that they have to wait when they can be in a house, but that number has been dropping. 95 days is not as bad as it has been. It's been 120, 150 days normally. And when you can get into a house in 45 to 60 days or less, that's an extra time to wait, especially risking the fact that the price that you got excited about, the bank said, I'm not selling it for that, I want more. You still want to buy it. So we went from a 2.5 month supply in September down to a 1 month supply in Pinellas County for short sales last month. Here we go, the next page. This is the number where we most work in. Non-distressed listings in Pinellas. Inventory dropped from September to October by a little bit. It's 3142 down to 3118. But year over year, last October at the same time, it was 4,490 active listings. So that's 1,372 less listings this October as opposed to last October. That means inventory dropped by 30.6% year over year in Pinellas County. At the same time, sales went up by 369 sales, from 1,772 sales up to 2,141. So with that much less inventory, there was still 369 more sales. So inventory dropped by 30.6%, but sales went up by 17.2%. That's the definition of a stronger seller's market. When inventory is dropping, listings are dropping, and sales are increasing, that means the seller's market's getting stronger. So when the seller's market getting stronger, prices are going up and sellers should be getting closer to the asking price. Well, you see sellers got 98% of the asking price just in normal non-distressed transactions. Scroll down a little further, you'll see the absorption rate went up to 68.7%, and it went to a 1.5 month supply of inventory. Last year, the month supply of inventory was much higher than 1.5 months. Okay, next, Pasco County. Oh no, this is Pinellas County. Yeah, I've been doing this combined data just to check to see how we're doing or pending stand. And how we're comparing month to month. So you see inventory dropped a little bit to 3146 based on, that was based on a couple days ago, November 17th. Pendings are 2867. There's almost as many pendings as there are active listings right now in the MLS, but they dropped a little bit month over month. And sales, of course, went up from September to October, which is unusual. Normally, sales don't go up from September to October. Normally, they drop. Okay, so that's interesting information. Next page. REOs in Pasco. There's 12 actives right now. There were 15 in September. 18 sold. They sold at 103% of list price. That means the asking price was a starting point for those 18 that sold in October. The absorption rate went up to 150%. The month supply stayed at less than a month supply, a 0.7 month supply. Now, the month supply of inventory doesn't have anything to do with how long it takes to sell a house. The month supply of inventory simply means that if no new inventory comes on the market, that's how long it will take to have no listings left. Okay. Short sales in Pasco County. 5 actives, 9 sold. They only took 74 days to get from contract to closing. That's better. And the absorption rate was 180%, a little over a half month supply of inventory. Not many left of those, and they're going quick too. Non-distressed in Pasco. Inventory went up actually month over month in Pasco for non-distressed, 1371 up to 1396. But year over year, dropped by 1,254 listings, or 47.3%. So we're almost half the inventory that we were last year, but there was a 23.1% increase in sales for the month of October. Sales went up from 1014 up to 1319, or a 23.1% increase. They sold at 98% on average also. And the absorption rate for the month was 94.5%, which is almost the entire active inventory, or a little bit over a 1 month supply of inventory. So this is what these numbers are indicating, that you're in a very competitive market, and sellers are in the driver's seat. Prices are going up, and anything you can do for buyers to spare them from competing will be appreciated if you present it properly, and will also give you the opportunity to get more listings and save you a lot of time if you don't have to write offers and lose, show properties, write offers and lose, and then maybe lose the buyer because they're sick of losing. Does that make sense? Next page. Now we look at the same combined data in Pasco, and we see that active inventory went up a little bit month over month. Sales went down just a little bit, which is more normal for October. I'm sorry, pendings. Look at pendings. Look at how many more pendings there are in Pasco than active listings. There's like 651, if my math is right, more pendings than actives right now in Pasco County. So that means November and December are going to be strong, or indicating that they're going to be, right? As far as closings. And sales dropped, but still higher than year over year. Dropped a little bit from month to month. Now, Hillsborough County. Actives 21. It's amazing. Every time I see this number, I know I say it frequently on these masterminds, but back in when we were in the heyday of the foreclosure situation, and distressed properties were a much higher percentage of our market. These numbers were 900 active listings. There were 900 actives consistently, month over month over month for foreclosure properties. Now there's only 21. 26 sold. They sold at 104% of list price. So to your buyer, that means that thinks that foreclosures are going to be a steal, that they can offer pennies on the dollar or 80% of list price. Think again. And that's why this data is good to show. Let them know what these properties have sold for. List to sales price ratios give an indication. That's why you want, one of the reasons you want to have a consultation with the buyer before you just start being the keeper of the lockbox key and jumping up when they say they want to see a house. You want to educate them on what's going on in that marketplace so that they're an educated buyer and don't make bad decisions. The absorption rate, 124%, less than a month's supply of inventory for REO in Hillsborough for October. Short sales, 19 actives, 12 sold. They took 154 days. There's the number. How would you like to be a buyer waiting for 4 months for a bank to decide whether the price that you have it under contract for is acceptable? You could be living in your house for 3 months waiting for this, right? So that's the downside, unless you really like the deal you got or the house that you're going to buy. Absorption rates 63.2. These numbers fluctuate sometimes month over month because there's not a large sample size. 1.6 month supply of inventory, but still very strong sellers market. Now past Hillsborough County, let's look at that. Again, inventory 2836, dropped a little bit from September. But from last October, it shrunk by 44.7%. There's 2,296 less listings right now than there were last year in Hillsborough County. Meanwhile, sales went up by 18.3%, or 397 sales. Those non-distressed properties sold at an average of 99% of list price. And the absorption rate was 90.7%, or a 1.1 month supply of inventory. So a very strong seller's market. Now the overall numbers you see, combined distressed and non-distressed inventory dropped a little bit month over month. Pendings dropped, but still very strong. There's over 1,000 more pendings in Hillsborough than there are actives right now, over 1,000. So again, sales went up in Hillsborough also from September to October. The market is vibrant. The market is hot. People are buying real estate. It's a good thing. And how can you make it better? How can you get your unfair share of the inventory that's out there? My best idea I already shared. Besides everything else that we do, calling FSBOs and expireds, doing open houses, calling your database, serving your database. Also, take advantage, since we don't have time to market the listing very much anymore. We don't get the benefit of having a listing for a long period of time, right? Because it goes so quick. We can't market it as long, so we don't get as many buyers, right? So make sure that you're taking advantage of every opportunity you can to market that property. You know, you can't wait to get the marketing out. You know, by the time you get the marketing out for the listing, it's sold. Okay. So while it's pending, you can still be marketing it. While it's pending, you can still be doing open houses. If you had multiple offers on it, go door to door and knock on doors in the neighborhood where you got a contract pending sign down the street, and let them know you just sold the property. Bring the front page of all the other offers that didn't succeed, and block out the names and the terms, and show them these are 4 other offers that we had on this property before they took the accepted offer. So what that means, Mr. and Mrs. Neighbor, is that there's still buyers looking in your neighborhood for a home. Who do you know in your neighborhood that might be interested in selling? That's another way you can possibly get listings. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So let's open it up for a few minutes. Any questions or ahas or thoughts? What's the data telling you? Everybody's shy today.
Still a great time to sell and a great time to buy. It's good for everybody.
Yeah, it is. That's a good aha, Tamara. Okay, let's get the board data, and I'll let you go. Real quick, we'll zip through these numbers. Year over year, inventory dropped by 29.9% when you combine everything. 5,004 down to 3,510. That's inventory dropped in Pinellas County. The sales went up by 17.7%. This is when you combine non-distressed and distressed. You can see that this October was the best October in history for number of sales. Just look at the last 5 years. See, by 17%. I mean, that's pretty significant. Okay. So overall, 60% absorption rate, 1.7 month supply of inventory. Very, very strong seller's environment. On the next page, we have the breakdown of by price class of how many active listings there were in each price class at the top of the page. top half. The bottom half is the number of solds by price class. So you can actually calculate the month's supply of inventory and the absorption rate just by having by that information. And what Jake Incarelli does is he calculates the absorption rate and month supply of inventory on each price class, so that no matter what type of appointment he's on, he has that data for Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough. You can do the same thing. So let's look at a couple of examples. Let's look between 7 and 800. How many properties are listed for sale right now in Pinellas County between 7 and 800? Everybody see?
111.
111, exactly. Right on the money. How many sold?
43.
Perfect. How do we calculate the absorption rate? Number of souls divided by the actives. So 43 divided by 111 equals what?
0.39.
Right, 39%. What's the month supply of inventory?
Looks like 2.56, Gary.
Yeah, 100 divided by 38.7. So still a very strong buyer's market in that price point, right? Now let's look between 6 and 7. How many properties are active? $140, right?
140, yeah.
Yeah. How many sold last month?
78.
Right. So what's the absorption rate there?
78.
43 divided by 140, right? Or no, 78 divided by 140.
Yeah, so 0.55.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got 55.7%, right? So what's the month supply of inventory?
Like 1.79.
Yeah, 1.8. So let me ask you a question. If you were going on a listing appointment and that seller could be anywhere from 775 up, what would be the best market for that seller to compete in? A 2.6 month supply or a 1.8 month supply?
You want to be below 700. You want to be in the high sixes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it can help you. Also, if you're doing updates with listings that you currently have that may not have sold, this data can help them understand that, okay, I'm listed at 7.25, but I'm not getting any offers. Why not? Well, the market's more active. Look at just the number of sales. 78 sold last month between 6 and 7, while only 43 sold between 7 and 8. And if you look at year to date, 574 sold as opposed to 394, which is over in the total number year to date number. So it's a much more active price point. So you think it might be a benefit for you to bring it down to 700 on the money to see if that might generate the change in competition that you need. Because see, buyers shop in price points, so do you as agents, right? So at 725, they're missing out on every buyer and every agent that's researching properties up to 700,000. And just a change in visibility can be the difference between getting multiple offers and not. That's why pricing a property above every $100,000 increment's a critical price position. Okay, so if you're pricing properties at 705 or 710, why? What's the purpose of it? It makes no sense marketing wise. Because everybody looking up to 700, that property is invisible. Unless it's worth 720, okay, then you might be underpricing it a little bit. But if it's worth 675 and you're pricing it at 705 or 710, it makes no sense logically when you're thinking about it from that perspective. Do you understand my point? And when you're adjusting a price, if it's at 725, to bring it down to 710 really isn't changing who they're competing against. You follow what I'm saying? So having that price position conversation with a seller on the listing appointment, and then again when you're when you're having follow-up conversations, if it hasn't been sold, is important to prepare them for what is to come, to understand the logic of price positioning and how it can put them in a position of competitive advantage. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Next page is the graph. Again, you can see the mouth getting smaller and smaller. Sometimes that's a good thing. That means the market's getting tighter, stronger for sellers. Inventory is dramatically shrinking. Sales are going up. So let's just look at the first page of the Pasco in Hillsborough and we'll call it a day. Sorry, I've done a little overtime. Okay. This says Pasco's inventory went up a little bit month over month, but year over year, it dropped by 1388 or 46.6%, while sales have gone up by 26.5% or 273 sales. Great news. In Hillsborough, the same story. 43.6% drop in active listing inventory, less 2,585 less listings, while sales have gone up by 281 or 12.7%. Any questions, thoughts, ahas? Was today worth your time?
Good stuff. Thank you.
Very good.
My pleasure. Have a very happy Thanksgiving. God bless you all. And stay working while you're enjoying your family.
Thank you, Gary.
Take advantage of the people that aren't, okay? God bless y'all. Take care
Happy
now.
Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Tamara.